Handling input and output in C++. C++ comes with libraries which provides us with many ways of performing input and output. In C++, input and output is performed in the form of sequence of bytes or more commonly known as streams. So let's look into how to handle output in C++. Usually, the standard output device is the display screen. The C++ cout statement is the instance of the OStream class. It's used to produce output on a standard output device, which is usually the display screen. The data needed to be displayed on the screen is inserted in a standard output stream using the insertion operator. Let's understand this through a program. So let's say that we are going to write a program that is printing a statement, welcome to C++ tutorial. So the first statement is file inclusion. So include your file. So let me comment it. Now why the file IOStream? IOStream is nothing but input output stream. We are going to print something. So we are going to handle cout for the same as seen in the previous slide. So cout is an instance of class OStream which is included into your header file IOStream. So whenever you're making use of cout statement, you need to include the header file IOStream for the successful execution of your program. The next statement is using namespace std. What namespaces we will discuss in later sessions. The next is you need to have a main function. So the program execution starts with main. So every program you create is required to have a main function. Now let's make use of the cout statement to print the statement welcome to C++ tutorial. So use cout. Along with cout, use the operator, insertion operator. Now whichever statement you're going to print must be included within the double quotes. So we are going to print a statement, welcome to C++ tutorial. Now terminate your statement with a semicolon. So cout is going to print. Now along with cout, you have to use the operator. This is referred to as the insertion operator. Whatever statement you are going to print must be included within the double quotes. Return statement, return 0. So you have created your program. Let's save it. Let's build and run and check whether we are getting the expected output. Yes, my program works absolutely fine. I can see the output here. Welcome to C++ tutorial. So this is how you make use of cout statement to print your data onto the screen. So let's proceed further. Now we have seen how to make use of cout statement for printing a text. Let's see how to make use of cout to print an integer or a float data. So since we are going to print an integer entity, I need to have a variable that is declared as integer. So let's say a is my integer variable and let me initialize it with a value 10. So this statement means that a is an integer entity that is holding a value of 10. Let's make use of cout statement and say I want to get my output like a equal to 10. So when you are expected to print something, you have to make use of cout statement. Along with cout, you have to use the operator, insertion operator. Now I am expecting my output like a equal to, that is a text. So include it within the double quotes. A equal to. Now I want to print the content of my variable A, that is 10. So for that, if you have to print multiple entities using a single cout statement, go on using the operator. So again, I have used an insertion operator, and when you're expecting to print the content of that variable, just specify the variable name. Let me terminate it with a semicolon. So the output of this statement will be A equal to, that is the text that you are going to print here, A equal to. Then you are accessing the content of your variable A, which is nothing but 10 that you have initialized in the previous statement. So let's check, let's build and run the program. Yes. Can you see your output here? You are getting A equal to 10. Now say you want to print multiple lines. For example, consider that in your first line you want to print an integer data, and second line say you want to print a float value. How to make use of your cout statement for the same? So you're going to handle an integer entity. So declare a variable as integer. Let me initialize it with a value 10. So this is you're initializing a variable A, which is of type integer, with a value 10. So A is holding the value 10 here. I'm going to handle a float value as well. So float B. This says that B is a variable of type float, or B can handle floating entities. So let me initialize it with a value, say 12.3. Now let's check how to make use of cout statement to print A and B in multiple lines. Say that you want your output like A equal to 10 in the first line and B equal to 12.3 in the second line. So cout, along with cout, you have to make use of the insertion operator. Now you want a text A equal to. So enclose that within double quotes. Now what you want to print A equal to? The content of A. So specify the variable name A. We have seen in the previous example. Now after printing this, I have to move to the next line. So to print new line, you can make use of the end L statement. So end L prints new line. So after printing new line, you are proceeding further to print the float value. So again use the insertion operator. What do you want to print in the second line? B equal to. So enclose that with a double quotes, B equal to. You have to access the content of variable B. So specify the variable name B. I'm again printing a new line. Terminate the statement with a semicolon. So this will give your output as A equal to 10 in the first line and B equal to 12.3 in the second line. Let's verify. Save your program, build and run. Yes, you can see your output here. It is giving A equal to 10 in the first line and B equal to 12.3 in the second line. So this is how you make use of cout statement to print data onto the screen. Handling input in C++. Usually the input device in a computer is the keyboard. C++ statement is the instance of the class iStream and is used to read input from the standard input device, which is usually a keyboard. The extraction operator is used along with the object cin for reading inputs. The extraction operator extracts the data from the object cin, which is entered using the keyboard. Let's analyze this through a program. Let's write a program to read an integer entity from the standard input, your keyboard. So first statement is file inclusion as seen in the previous program, and I'm including the same file IO string because IO string is nothing but input output string. We are going to use cin to read an entity from the keyboard. So cin is an instance of class iStream which is included into the header file IOStream. So whenever you make use of cin, cout in your program, you need to include the header IOStream. The next statement is using your namespace, which we will be discussing soon. Include your main function. So we are going to read an integer entity from the keyboard. So you need to have an integer variable that is capable of handling the data. So this statement declares a as an integer variable that is going to handle the integer value whatever you give from the keyboard. Before using cin, let me use a cout statement just to alert the user to enter an integer value from the keyboard. So this statement will ask the user to enter an integer value. Now let us make use of cin to read the data. So cin, along with cin, you have to use the extraction operator. Now whatever value you are giving from the keyboard is to be read to the variable a. So specify the variable name as a. This statement will read the value to the variable a. Whatever integer value you give from the keyboard will be read to the variable a. How will you verify that? Use a cout statement and print the content of variable a. So cout a equal to a, terminated with a semicolon. So declaration of variable a as integer, cout statement alerting the user to enter an integer value, cin statement which is allowing the programmer to give a value from the keyboard. Now whatever value is given from the keyboard will be read to the variable a. We are printing the content of variable a. Let's build and run the program. Yes. You can see here it is asking enter an integer value. So give some value. Let me give it as 34. Press enter. Yes, your program is working fine because you can see a equal to 34. That means that you have given the value 34 from the keyboard which is read to the variable a as expected. So making use of cin and cout statements, you can handle input and output in C++ programming language.